Hola y bienvenido. In English, hello and welcome to another Discovery Day. Today we are back in Tarragona with another 5 sites to visit. Like last time, I will do half today and the remainder tomorrow, as there is a long way to walk. The weather's a bit different today. It's a bit cooler, there's a bit of a wind, and as you can probably see from the background, we've got a mixture of blue sky and clouds. Yesterday we had some Spanish thunderstorms, so it was a bit of a change from the bright hot sunshine that we've had so far. Anyway, let's get going and see what today's visit brings us. Well, here we are in the Cathedral of Tarragona, the Basilica, and I'm actually in the cloisters of the cathedral. I've misplaced the selfie stick, so I'm having to hold the camera today, but I'm sure that won't spoil your enjoyment too much. I'm also minus me hat because, of course, the Spanish are deeply religious and you need to take your hat off when you're in religious establishments. Anyway, the cathedral is built on the hilltop in Tarragona and hosts most of Tarragona's medieval art. The first building here was built in the early 1100s and then added to over the next 2 centuries into what you see today, making it a mix of Roman and Gothic architecture. It was consecrated in 1331. These are some of the remains of those earlier buildings, and on the banners it shows you images of how and where they were placed. So now let's go inside and I can show you the splendour of the interior of this building. In 1512, a watchmaker from Zaragoza was asked to craft a new clock mechanism, and this is it. It replaced an earlier clock from 1417. Casa Canals was the home of a wealthy aristocratic family here in Tarragona. The Canal family were Catalan nobility. The house was built in 1800 using the Roman buildings as a foundation, as we can see here. All the furniture and the decorations are the original ones, left exactly where they were when the family were last living here, making this a unique piece of Tarragona history. This is the other end of the ancient city walls that we visited on the previous discovery day. And over the road there would have been one of the main gateways into the ancient city of Tarragona. And if you notice how the houses have been built into the walls where there was gaps and ruins, apartments have been built. Quite extraordinary. You see over there an original part of the wall, but right along this section is the original foundations put down prior to 200 BC, and there's a doorway through that which I guess would be maybe Roman, and you can see that the way they've built the apartments above, they've tried to remain true to the original building of that wall there. Down on the shore there is the ancient harbour and the fort, which we'll be visiting in the second part of this Discovery Day, which will be tomorrow, because as I said, I'm splitting this into two halves. Another example of the apartment built into the original city walls. And over there another doorway. It's quite extraordinary how the new supersedes the old. I'm guessing that that's Augustus on top of that plinth. It is Augustus that is most associated with this ancient centre of Tarragona, so I'm presuming that's who it is. If I've got that wrong, please write to me and let me know. Well, here we are at the Cirque Romana, or El Cirque Roma. I've had to put my sunglasses on because the sun's come out, so I apologise for not having eye contact with you all. But in English, this would be the Roman circus, and it was built about 100 years BC. A circus in Roman times had nothing to do with clowns and trapeze artists. It was for chariot racing. A two-horse chariot race was called a bigay, and a four-horse chariot race was a quadrigay. When full, it would have held 30,000 spectators. It is the best preserved circus of its type in the Western world, most of it buried beneath the city of Tarragona, but enough is visible above ground to appreciate the spectacle. And you'll see that the town of Tarragona has been built up all around the circus, so it's the different stands in the arena are in separate streets, and there are lots of buildings and streets in between. So I guess from above you would get an idea of the layout. This ruin behind me is the back of the Cirque de Roma. And behind me is another part of the Cirque Roma. Some reconstructed terraces here to give you some idea of the scale and what was here before. The octagonal tower there just behind me is the Praetorium. Originally it would have housed the Roman general here. In the 1100s it was extended into the square building behind and made into a castle. And that castle would have been for the monarchs of Aragon. In more recent times it was used as a prison. As I mentioned earlier, the Kingdom of Aragon and Catalonia were formed during the 1100s in the Christian reconquest of Spain. Catherine of Aragon was a descendant of the monarchy here, who became the wife of Henry VIII some 400 years later. So with the combination ticket I bought the other day, let's go inside and see what it has to offer.
Oui.
An image of what this end of the Roman circus would have looked like is the mural on the end of that building. As I say, it was almost like a modern, an ancient football stadium with the terraces and the entrance points for the chariots. And this tunnel will take us up to that tower. I guess the performers and the chariots and the riders would have prepared in these chambers here below before appearing in the arena. So from the top of the Pretoria Tower, the Praetorium, there's the Basilica, the cathedral that we visited earlier. So from the cathedral, in the far distance, is the Pyrenees mountain range, which separate modern day Spain from France. The city of Tarragona, which is quite extensive, as you can see. And then if we come over to this side, if I just go down, there's the entrance to the Roman circus beneath us, and in the distance the port of Tarragona, and in the very far distance the headland is La Pineda, where we're staying this fortnight. If I come to the left, you can see down below us the amphitheatre, and the amphitheatre is where we're going tomorrow. And then if I just continue the panorama over here, we get another view of the fort and the ancient harbour of Tarragona. Also, we will visit that tomorrow in the second part. Well, that's all for today, ending this first part of the Discovery Day at the Cirque de Roma. I'm off back to the hotel for something to eat and a dip in the sea, and I'll see you all back here tomorrow in part 2. Bye for now. Well, hello and welcome back to this part 2 of the second Discovery Day, and the change of shirt just proves that it's another day. We've got a nice hot day today. It's the sun's high in the sky and the temperature's rising. Well, as I promised, this is the Roman amphitheatre, and it lies just below the Roman circus we saw previously. It's another huge Roman construction, and when you add up all the Roman sites here, they collectively are not far short of a place like Pompeii or Rome itself. In fact, the condition of the amphitheatre here is, in my mind, better than the one in Pompeii. Okay, Pompeii was covered with volcanic ash. This one not so. But I'm sure there are other amphitheatres around Europe, but the ones that I've seen outside of Rome anyway, this one is by far in the best condition. The amphitheatre was built around 100 AD and would have held about 14,000 spectators. This would have held the gladiator events, but also public executions. A well-documented execution here was in 259 AD, when the Emperor of Rome at that time instigated the persecution of the Christians throughout the empire. He ordered Tarragona's bishop and his deacons to be burned at the stake in this arena, and it's thought that they were perhaps the first Christian martyrs. Each of the three arenas we have seen have had a different function, one for plays and performances, the other for racing and sport, and this one for fighting and executions. So that's the brief rundown of the information. So let's now go and have a wander and see it close up. This separate wall was to protect the spectators from any of the animals jumping up. It was just an extra protection. This is the building in the centre of the amphitheatre. If you remember, I said just before that the three Christian martyrs were burned at the stake here, and after that it began the change of Roman population to Christianity, and it was felt right to build a church here. And there were several churches over the centuries, but they were built on the site of that execution. And you can see from this side how deep those foundations go. There's no mortar between the stones, or there is some, I can just see. I was going to say they're mostly huge stones laid, cut stone obviously, laid one on top of each other, but I can see some mortar right in the back of the stones, but that's got to be 3 meters at least, and then the church built on top. It was built in the shape of a cross, like most cathedrals are. So we're looking up to the top of the cross, and then the the two naves off to each side. And I don't know whether you can see in the background two cats there. There's an awful lot of cats and they're all hanging around these Roman ruins. I'm not sure if they're stray or whether they belong to people, but literally dozens and dozens of them. Just on the other side of the boardwalk there are the remains of cysts. If you remember, we saw one or two of those in our travels in Britain, but here they are in a small cemetery side by side, so a much clearer example of them than I've been able to show you in the past. They have quite a lot of the sections of the amphitheatre fenced off, and I think that's due to safety reasons, because some of it looks in quite a state of disrepair and crumbling. So that's pretty much all around the areas you can walk down in the centre. Our next location is the fort that I showed you earlier, and I just have to consult Google as to how to get there. So we'll go off on the from the amphitheatre and go and explore the fort. There's a few clouds now, which is just making it that little bit cooler and easier to walk. The museum lady there just confirmed what I said. The reason they're fenced off is because they're too dangerous to walk on. We've got these metal gantries to walk on, so you can safely get from one point to another. Very enjoyable though. So that was quite easy actually. It was just a short walk down the hill from the amphitheatre, and here we are on Tarragona beach. Just avoid the water fountain. People get showered after they've been on the beach. It's quite busy. There's events here for the children, so I need to switch the camera off. But short walk to the fort, which is our next location. This little corner of the beach is for dogs, so you can bring your dog to the beach and enjoy the water, and that's fenced off from the main part of the beach. which is quite thoughtful of the Spanish, because it gets awfully hot here. You can imagine a dog locked in all day until the sun goes down. Not easy. That out there, folks, is a Spanish lifeboat. Just investigating a couple of tourists there on an inflatable, making sure that they're safe. Currents here are very strong, very, very strong. And this is the where the original harbour was of Tarragona. Let's just see the remains of a wall there. I'm not sure how old that is, but it certainly looks Roman. But today populated by fishermen. And that up there is the fort that we're going to visit next. Well, here we are at our last location, which is the Fort de la Reina. And the fort we can see today was built in 1745 during the Wars of Succession. They were conflicts set off by the death of Charles II of Spain, who died without an heir. Consequently, several countries began fighting over the control of Spain and the Spanish Empire. It is without a doubt that the Romans would have had some sort of fortification here to guard the harbour, Tarragona being so important to them. The fort played a vital role in protecting the harbour during the siege of Tarragona, and that took place during the war with France in 1811. Well, as you can see there, I managed to poke the camera through the gap in the door so you can get a glimpse of inside, but obviously it's overgrown and hasn't been maintained, sadly, so we've only got the outside to look at. That's the advantage of this tiny camera. You can poke it through bars and gaps and get an uninterrupted shot. But there you go. Sadly, there's a lot of graffiti down this end, but you can see there that this was once a doorway into the fort, and another doorway here. but as you can see from the interior of this one, it too is overgrown and not kept. Both forts are about the same size, but this one clearly had a moat with a drawbridge. Well, that concludes this second Discovery Day here in sunny Spain. I hope you've enjoyed the content. I certainly have, walking around and you know, enjoying the sunshine here. Talking of sunshine, I can't guarantee this sort of weather in the forthcoming Discovery Days, because obviously back in England we have English weather, but that's just the nature of it. So there's another Discovery Day coming, the day in Barcelona, so that will be posted very soon. So until I see you then, I'll bid you all goodbye, good health as normal, and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye for now.